Hey, what's going on everybody? It is Slash687 here, back at it again with another PC related video. Today I have a parts list for you all. It's another one of the top 5 gaming CPUs for the money videos. I'm back with the weekly upload. That's what it's going to be pretty much for the foreseeable future. Probably about one upload a week, sometime on the weekend, but that's just what we're looking at right now. So let's get into this list. So for this list, I'm going to start at the lowest cost CPUs and work my way up. So the first one I have is the Intel Core 2 Quad Q6600. It is a quad-core CPU, actually the first ever quad-core CPU released by Intel, based on the socket type 775. Now this socket does actually support DDR3 RAM, so DDR3 is actually not that old. They also supported DDR2, but there are some out there that supported DDR3, and I would recommend going with one of those motherboards if you decide to pick up this CPU. Like I said, it's $20, so pretty much the bare minimum you could ever possibly pay for a quad-core CPU. It will be alright for some modern games, however, I would expect to use the CPU in a very, very budget-end build, and I wouldn't be, I wouldn't say that you could max out 1080p games with the CPU, even if you did have a great GPU, but it will be very good for a very low budget PC like you've seen in some of my videos in the past with builds that I've had this in. It does get the job done, and for $20 you really can't complain. The next CPU I have is the Intel Xeon E5 2665. It is an 8-core 16-thread CPU based on the socket 2011. The largest downside of the CPU is just that the motherboards are so ridiculously expensive because this is a server part, and these server motherboards that you get for this CPU are very expensive, much more expensive than the $55 for this CPU right here. However, if you can find a good deal on one of these motherboards, this CPU is an absolute beast. Like I said, 8 cores, 16 threads with a 2.4 gigahertz base clock, and it does have turbo boost all the way up to 3.1 gigahertz. It supports DDR3, so you do kind of have a modern RAM technology there, and overall for $55, if you can find a good deal on a motherboard for this thing, you could use this for editing, gaming, pretty much anything, and it would be able to handle it easily. Next up, I have a CPU that you don't actually have to go buy used on eBay for. It's the AMD Athlon X4 860K with the AMD Quiet cooler. So this is a cooler CPU combo, so instead of like you have on the eBay deals where you have to buy a cooler, this one comes with it, and you just throw it onto your S-socket FM2 Plus motherboard, and it gets the job done. This thing, like I said, it's new, so you get that reliability, you get that warranty. When you buy used on eBay, there's no guarantees. You never know if it's going to work or not, so that's one of the downsides with that. But this CPU is overclockable. Like I said, it is a K-series CPU, so you're getting that overclockability. The quiet cooler is not very good for overclocking, so if you're very serious about it, I would recommend getting an aftermarket cooler. But for what it is, $70, you get a brand new CPU that should be reliable, that should work right out of the box, and you get a cooler with it to boot. So for $70, you really can't go wrong. I'd use this in some kind of low-end $300, $400, $500, new parts PC build. So not very bad at all for $70. The second to last CPU I have on my list is the Intel Core i3 6100. It is a Skylake series CPU based on the socket 1151, so you do get that DDR4 support with this CPU. It kind of takes the place of CPUs like the FX 8350, the 8320, those old 8-core CPUs from AMD. This thing will beat those handily nowadays. It really has taken over, and even though it is only a dual core, you do have hyper-threading, and that is going to help you out in a lot of games that really do require 4 cores. It should be able to run pretty much anything you can throw at it with a proper GPU. A lot of people look down on the i3s because they are dual core, but this really isn't that bad at all. Like I said, you got the hyper-threading, you have a very, very good thermal design. It only requires 65 watts. It's a very cool, efficient CPU, and it's just the complete opposite of those older FX 8350, 8320, those type of CPUs. It's a much better alternative that uses a much newer architecture. The last CPU on my list is the Intel Core i5 6500. It is a quad-core Skylake CPU, clocked at 3.2 GHz based on the socket 1151. So it does support DDR4, you get Intel Turbo Boost, you get all the good features you're looking for in a new Skylake series CPU. A lot of people prefer the 6600K to the 6500 because you do get that overclocking support for only an extra $30, but you got to keep in mind, if you're going with a K series CPU, you also have to get a motherboard that is appropriate for overclocking as well, so that's going to cost you another $40-50 if you're going for one of those more expensive motherboards. So at the end of the day, if you want to go for a 6600K, it's probably going to cost you another $80 in all actuality, not just another $30. So that's why I prefer the i5 6500. It gets the job done. It's clocked at 3.2 GHz, which really isn't bad at all. And if you really are that serious about overclocking, you can still download the old BIOS on your motherboard, and you can still overclock a 6500 because a few months ago they were overclockable, but Intel patched it. They released a motherboard BIOS update on all the motherboards that were supporting this overclocking on the non-K series CPUs. But if you are serious about it, like I said, you can go back, install the old BIOS, and even though it could cause some security issues, if you're that serious about it, I guess you wouldn't really be too bothered by that. So that's going to be the top of the end for us, $205. I didn't include an i7 or anything like that because as far as gaming's concerned, you aren't going to get that much extra benefit. So like I said, i5 6500, very good deal right here. So that's going to end the list. I hope you all enjoyed. If you're interested in purchasing any of the CPUs you saw in this video, go down to the description and use my Amazon associate links. I get a small kickback and it helps the channel out a lot, so if you could do that, I would definitely appreciate it. I use that money to put towards the real-life PC build videos that you see on my channel. I love making those videos. You guys seem to love watching them. So, like I said, support me on Amazon. You can also use the general link to the site and purchase anything. You could purchase dog food, you could purchase cat food, you could purchase human food. Go ahead, go for it. I'd appreciate it if you all would use it. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them down in the comments below. If you like the video, and if you're new, subscribe. I'll see you all later. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good night. Peace.